Hi guys, how you doing today? This is going to be the first video that I'm showing the level 2 students for NTI. When you're at home, you obviously can't throw on the wheel, but I've got a couple of projects designed for you that you're going to make some pretty cool projects while you're at home. Now at home you're probably not going to have the tools that you can get in the studio, so I'm going to cover a couple of tools you're going to need to begin with. You're going to need a base to hold your piece because you're going to have to transport it back and forth. This is going to be a coil-built flower pot with a face sculpted on it. You can choose the face, you can choose the shape of the head, but thinking of a flower pot, you want it more in a V so it's open up more at the top than at the bottom. That way if I need to transplant that plant, I can pull it out and put it in another pot. If I have my walls this way, I can't get the plant out and it's going to end up dying on you because it can't grow anymore. So keep your spots more vertical or make your walls coming in like a V so the plant can survive better. Tools at home. A couple of tools that I'm going to make at home or make here for you to show you at home is we sent you home with a large popsicle stick that you can use as a blending tool with your coils. You can also use a plastic knife. Now I stopped at McDonald's for breakfast this morning, so I've got the McDonald's tools to use today. I can blend with those, and I can use the fork for scoring. Now, I like the idea of using the popsicle stick to blend with, so I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to convert my knife into a better toothed rib. If you have access to a file, just take the file and cut deeper grooves in your piece. The deeper grooves will help score the clay a little bit better. So cut those in, and you should have a nice surface now to score the clay. You'll see this in action in a few minutes. Setting your piece down on something to transport, what I thought would be good if you have access to is a lid. This lid happens to have a little dome on it, so it's going to rotate real well like a banding wheel. So I don't want to set my clay directly on here because, as you know, clay is going to stick to that plastic surface. So I'm going to start off by laying a piece of plastic on top of my piece of wood here, or my plastic lid. I'm going to tuck the plastic underneath so now I can spin this piece and I don't have all that plastic in my way. It's good to get the air out of it if you can. Don't pop the bag. You don't want to have an air hole in it. Now that I've got my base set up where I'm going to actually do my work, I'm going to get a slab of our chunk of clay. This is about 1.5 pounds of clay, probably more than you're going to need. And I'm going to squeeze this and make this close to a slab. I prefer to start with a slab base bottom than a coil base bottom because they have a tendency to crack on us. We've seen that in the past in our coil built projects. If you are not diligent about blending that, we've had serious cracks and breaks with that. So start off with a slab bottom. And again, I'm just pinching it and slapping it down to get a flatter piece of clay. If you have a piece of wood that you can work with, here's a technique you can use. I've got the Formica board, or the masonite board we use here. Hold the board and throw the clay at an angle, and it'll stretch that clay out and give you a nice flat bottom also. So I pinched it and then tossed it a couple of times, and now I've got a nice slab of clay to start working with. Now continue with that board right now. I'm going to start here, and that's going to be my base for my piece. I'm going to have to cut this, but I want to determine how big I need to cut it first. So I'm going to roll out coils. You know how to make coils. I'm going to talk you through it, but you should know how to make a coil. I'm going to take a chunk of clay, and I'm going to pinch this into a rope-like or snake-like piece of clay. We want our coils to be maybe a tiny bit bigger than we made them in that first project in level 1. This is going to support a plant and a bunch of soil, so we may make the walls a tad bit thicker than we did in that other project. I've got my coil now, and now I'm just going to do a couple of rows to get a more even thickness throughout the piece. There's many ways you can go about this process. I like to start off with coils, cut them, and stack them on top of each other. Other people like to build them and just do one coil and continue to wrap it around and blend them. I don't care which way you go, it's all going to be the same in the end. We're going to camouflage our coils, we're going to blend them away so we can't see them. So if this way works easier for you, do it this way. I'm probably going to start this way. Remember, my maximum diameter to my pot is 7 inches. The maximum height to my pot is 7 inches. Now that's 7 inches in the pot. We're probably going to add legs to it after the fact so we can elevate the piece with a hole in the bottom so the excess water can drain out of our flower pot. We don't want to have stagnant water sitting in the bottom of a pot. Again, it'll kill the plant. So, I've got my slab. I set my slab down on my lid that's covered in plastic. I lay my coils on top there. What I like to do is just trace around it. And again, using this like a banding wheel, I can just rotate that. Now I've got it marked and I know where I need to score. So I'm going to come back in with my fork and I'm going to score that surface. Vinegar, that is going to be our glue in here. This is 3 parts water, 1 part vinegar. If you've got a little jar or a little piece of Tupperware, you can mix it in and just take the lid off and use it every day, put the lid back on and not have to make up a new solution every day. That'd be fabulous. You all know we have the bottles up here behind me and we just spray it into a small cup in the studio. At home, you'll have to devise your own way. Paintbrush works great. An old toothbrush will work so you can apply the vinegar on it. But again, get a lidded jar, a piece of Tupperware, a baby food jar that you can mix your vinegar water in. Again, 3 parts water, 1 part vinegar, and make your solution. I'm going to paint the vinegar on my slab of clay. I'm going to score my coil. And I'm going to lay the coil down on the slab. When I get here, I'm going to score the clay again. And add a little vinegar. You're probably at home right now saying, hey, when you taught us that in class, we didn't score those pieces together. You're right, we didn't in-house because we were blending so well. This is just a technique we want to use because this pot is going to go through a lot more stress than a traditional pot. A flower pot is going to get temperature variances, it's going to have moisture variances, so let's go a little bit thicker and take a few extra steps to make sure we don't have issues with it. So I've got all that taken care of now. Now I want to remove that piece of clay, that excess piece of clay. So I'm going to take my little knife here and I'm going to cut the excess clay off. It's very possible when you're doing this step that you cut your plastic bag. If you cut your bag, when you close it up for the day, make sure you put another piece of plastic over it to seal it so there's no air getting out of there and drying it out. You don't want to set this aside, then come into school, and then go back home the next day to work on it and see that it's been drying for 2 days because you didn't seal the bag properly. Make sure you double, triple bag it to make sure no air's getting in there. I'm going to blend now. I'm going to go with my popsicle stick that we gave you. If you didn't get one of these in class, I've got tons of these. I can give them to you when you come in. Now I'm going to start at the bottom, keeping my fingers on the top, and I'm going to blend that bottom coil, or that bottom slab, into the coil. Make sure you aggressively move that clay. If you're simply trying to camouflage and lightly move the clay to cover up that crack, it's not going to attach real well. Aggressively move that clay. The coil is a little thicker so that you can move that clay around. And again, I like supporting the top of it so my coils don't move around when I'm working. Then I'm going to take that second coil that wrapped around, and I'm going to push down when I'm blending that. Again, keeping the stick moist, it slides across that clay a whole lot better. I'm not real concerned right now on it being pretty. My concern now is making sure that those coils are firmly attached to one another. We'll do the cleanup later on. Now that I've got that outside blended, I'm going to do this same thing to the inside. It's a whole lot easier to push the clay down into the bottom of the piece. And I'm using the tip of my tool right here. You can see where the clay is sticking to it. That's the part of the tool that I'm pushing the clay with. The tip of it. Is it messing the clay up, making it look sloppy? Yeah, right now it is. But that's not a big deal. Again, our major concern now is to make sure that these coils and bottom slab are well attached. And I've gone all the way around on the inside now. So my piece looks like